Welcome to the Reclaim Your Health podcast. This is the show where we have discussions about thriving in life, even with a chronic illness. So, over half of the United States population has at least one chronic illness, and that's either a mental condition or a physical illness. And it's my goal to normalize talking about health and wellness while considering that most of us have an illness. People with chronic illness are close to my heart for a couple of reasons. One, I was a child who grew up with a parent that had a chronic condition. She still has it, multiple sclerosis, my mom. And then also, I have been someone that is and has had several chronic illnesses, whether that was asthma or general anxiety disorder or chronic migraines. So, whether you are a person that has had one or multiple chronic illnesses yourself, or you grew up in close proximity to someone, you are definitely welcome to listen. I am excited to have these conversations with you all today. As a reminder, just in case you're not familiar, a chronic illness is just a chronic condition or a health condition, illness, or disease that has had the symptoms for at least 12 weeks. That's what classifies it as chronic, has to be for an extended period of time. So that's what that is. And also, before I forget, if you yourself have a chronic illness or have had one in the past and want to offer some encouragement to somebody that is going through what you have been through, or you even just want to raise more awareness about your specific condition, I would love to have you come on the show and we'll talk about it and some of the lifestyle changes that you have made to help you still enjoy life. I think that would be really beneficial and helpful for people to hear. I'll have the details on how to do that in the show notes. There will be a link. So definitely do that. And also, if you're concerned about like friends or family or other people finding out about your illness that you haven't shared it with, but you are interested in coming on, I do have an option for you to come on anonymously to the viewers in the audience. So just go to the link in the description and I will sort that out with you as well. So we can keep your information private and protected, because I have definitely been there where I don't let everybody know what chronic conditions I have. So if that is you and are interested, I still want to make it available for you to be able to come on. Okay. Today's topic is one of my favorite topics to talk about on the show. I've talked about it a few times, but not as it relates specifically to chronic illness. So I was like, okay, it's time to talk about it again. So we're going to discuss environmental wellness, and we'll talk about what it is and why it's important to consider. And I think talking about environmental wellness can really help you with, or help anybody with, becoming or remaining intentional about their space or an environment. And that's extremely valuable for multiple reasons. But one of the main reasons that I like is that it is so supportive in lowering stress levels and also with creating feelings of safety and comfort. Lowering stress and overwhelm and increasing those feelings of safety is going to help you be able to rest. It's going to help you to be able to think clearer. One of my favorites, it allows you to have more space to be creative in your life too. So that's not typically what we would think of when you think of environmental wellness. At least that wasn't my initial thoughts when I first learned about making your environment a part of your wellness practice. So that's another reason why I like to talk about it, because I hadn't considered it. So I figured maybe somebody else hasn't considered that as well. But when you think about those things, having less stress, less overwhelm, and more feelings of safety and more feelings of comfort and rest and clarity and more space to be creative, there's a lot that you can do with that. So as you listen to today's episode, I think it'd be helpful to consider, when it comes to your life, maybe you could ask yourself, what would having a life with less stress or with more creativity or with more rest, more clarity, whatever it is that's sticking out to you right now. What would your life look like if you had more of that? And what would you be able to do more of in life if you had that? So keep those in mind as you consider environmental wellness and what that looks like for you, and as you listen to this episode. Okay, so let's get into what environmental wellness is. It is broken down basically into three parts. You have physical, social, and personal. And that those three things include things like your home space, your work, their water, your social lives, the air, like pollution, all of those things are considered environmental. And they're all important, right? But today we're just going to focus in on what personal environment is. So that's more like your personal space, whether that's your home, your personal car, your workspace and wherever you work, like at your desk, like those personal spaces. So that's what we're going to focus on today when I'm talking about environmental wellness and incorporating that into your wellness routines or your self-care. So, research has shown us that if there's a lot of things, just in general, things are in sight, it is stimulating your brain, whether you are trying to or not. Like your brain will just try to process whatever it can see. Whatever it is in your visual field, it's fighting for your attention. That's why it's like, have you ever been trying to talk to someone and you're looking at them, but then something is like distracting in the background, whether it's people talking or there's just like something more colorful or more bright or someone's doing cartwheels or whatever, something crazy. It's distracting. So even though you're not trying to look at them, if it's in that visual field, it's fighting for your brain's attention. So the more stuff or things that are going on that's in your visual field, the more your brain is being stimulated. And you have that competition of what can grab your brain's attention, basically. And so when you can kind of like clear that field, level it out, that's why it's easier to focus on what's in front of you because you're not trying to process so many things. There's not as many things competing for your attention. That's why there is this like sense of relief or even like pride when you have finally put your laundry away or when you picked all the toys up off the floor or you have cleared your workspace and it is just, nice and organized because you not only have gotten some cleaning done like physically, you also mentally freed up some space in your brain for other things. And that feels good to us. Now, I'm sure most of us can recognize how nice it is to have a clean space, to have an organized space, or to have a space of our own that we can customize. But the reality is that there are challenges when it comes to space. One, taking care of space is tiring. If you struggle with having low energy, let's be real, cleaning is tiring and it can really be a challenge to do. Another challenge, more than it just being tiring, it can be an overwhelming to have to maintain or be in charge of a space. It feels like that's just one more thing on our never-ending to-do list of things we have to manage and organize and something that never stays, put together. So it can be associated with having feelings of overwhelm as well. Another challenge when it comes to having an ideal space is that we're not always the only ones in our space, right? Like, for example, do y'all think my toddler cares if I just picked up every single last one of the balls that were in his ball pit? He absolutely does not. So, my mom brain then has to consider, okay, how do I make our home a space where I'm not tripping all over these random toys and I'm not feeling overstimulated, but also I've created it to be a space where my son feels free to play. So that's a challenge because It's not as simple as just like, okay, just pick up the balls from the ball pit. Because, you have to also consider, okay, how do I feel good in this space and how does he? Right? So it's a challenge because it does essentially add something else to your list. I want him to play, I want him to have a fun and be able to be a kid in the house, but I also want there to be boundaries and there to be designated areas. So, that's what we create. But the point is just that that's something you have to intentionally do. My toddler is not going to create that boundary for him. He's not going to say, I'm only going to keep the balls in the ball pit. I mean, he's just not. He hasn't learned to set those kind of boundaries yet. So I have to do it. So that's something else that I have to do. So that's another reason why it can be challenging. So if you have other family members in your space, other people, if you have pets, um, it can begin to feel like a lot that you have to consider when you're trying to design or your space that is functional and appealing to you. Is typically not all about you, right? And it over time, because of these challenges, it gets easy to kind of lower the priority or the value we place on making our environment part of our wellness routines, right? We just kind of begin to throw stuff on the secretary, stuff in drawers because it's just like, I'll get to it later because other things are more important. Spending time with those family members, spending time with your pets or doing whatever it is that you do. There's other things that are arguably more important, right? Because people are more valuable than things, of course. But the things that are around us do affect our quality of life, and that can affect our mood, that can affect how we show up, what we're available to. So it's not something that should be ignored. I'm not saying it has to be the highest thing on your priority list. Like if I have to say, okay, is cleaning the house or time with my son more important? Obviously, a human is more important, but cleaning the house is also important too. So I like to just bring attention to that because I am have definitely struggled with like the long list of things to do, balancing the priorities of it all. And I've kind of gotten to places where I've talked myself out of the importance of my environment for valid reasons. Like, oh, well, I have this to do or that to do or so and so to tend to. All valid, good things. But there is definitely still value in taking care of your space and how it helps you show up for those people in your life. So, what do we do when we have to balance all of this all? Because it can be a lot. Now, I'm not a professional organizer or anything, but I did research a few tips that could help you when it comes to getting started and curating your space. One that I like to do is break down how you're going to tackle things. When you are trying to organize or clean your room or come up with systems in place, it can feel very overwhelming to just say, okay, I got to clean the house. I got to clean the apartment. Whoa. So maybe breaking it down, maybe it's by room. Okay, this week I'm going to work on my room or the kids' room or the office. If you don't want to do it by room, you could do it by sections or by themes, even like, all right, I'm going to, I don't know, put locks on all the windows in the house, whatever, however you want to do it. And you can even, if you want to start with the room, you could break that down too. Like if tackling the whole kitchen feels too big of a task, because I don't know about you, but I always forget how much stuff is actually in my kitchen. So instead of just pulling everything out of all the cabinets and drawers and say, okay, let me organize it all, maybe I start with a couple drawers, or maybe I start with a section. Like I'm going to start with the drawer beside the sink. So, breaking down how you're going to tackle things, kind of having a little bit of a plan of attack can help reduce that overwhelm and also helps reduce that overwhelm or stress of getting into taking care of your space is manage your expectations of what you can get done. There may have been a time when you were able to deep clean your whole house on a Saturday, no problem, and you felt good and had time and energy to go do something after that. But now, whether it's with kids, or the work that you do, the illness that you have. It's too hard to try to do all of that without feeling so physically depleted. It takes way too much out of you. So it's okay if things are different now and the amount of things that you can do is different than what it used to be. But sometimes we just have to remind ourselves that. We have to tell ourselves that. Another thing is that if you've been trying to wait until you have the time to clean and organize multiple spaces, and it just hasn't been getting done, you might need to consider if that's still the best approach for you at this time. If it's been weeks or even months and you still are waiting for the right time from when you have enough energy to do multiple things in the house, maybe it's time to reconsider or adjust the expectation for yourself to get it all done in a day. Another tip that I researched that was helpful when it comes to curating or customizing your space is to just personalize things. Yes, this could mean aesthetically, but also I like to highlight functionally. I just moved recently couple months ago, and it takes a long time to really get settled into a house in my opinion, but I love aesthetics and pretty things just like a lot of people, but I just don't have the mental capacity to focus on that right now. So I'm still getting myself together functionally. That is part of personalization. And maybe you are the person that does have everything functionally going the way that you like, everything is efficient, or a lot of things are like you're just happy, you're satisfied with where it is. But your house isn't, or your space, it doesn't look the way that you would like it to look. Part of the environmental wellness could be making it aesthetically pleasing to you if that's something you want to do, because that can even boost your mood. Just like there's science that shows that it helps us mentally clear our brains when we have less to look at. There is also research that shows, when we see things that get us excited, we feel those happy hormones, and that can boost your mood. So it's fine to want to like your space and take care of that and invest in it. And I would consider that part of wellness. So whether you're on either side of that, needing to work on the organization and functionality of your space or needing to take the time to work on the aesthetics, both are wellness. I need to do both. I just have enough time and energy to focus on the organization of it, and then I will move to aesthetics. All of this, whatever it is that you're going to be focusing on, is going to take time because creating a personalized environment takes time and energy. But think of the reward of making environmental wellness part of your self care maintenance. One of my goals is like once I have everything in order, I want to come up with a routine that helps me keep it in order. So for me, that means I'm going to need to have some purging going on. I'm going to need to declutter so that it's easier to maintain. And then again, don't feel bad about wanting to curate or invest in your space or even get help with organizing your space. If you have the means and you want to hire somebody to help you clean every now and then or however often, do that. That's part of taking care of your well-being. If you want to use a room in an untraditional way, my dining room is currently a playroom because that's works best for my family and I. Do that. Make it personalized and functional for you because, again, it does help with things like lowering stress, um, giving you creativity, giving you clarity, reducing overwhelm. And I need all of that. So instead of having a dining room, if having a playroom right now is what's going to work best for me, I'm going to do that. And as you do these things, again, I want to redirect you or consider these things. I want to redirect you back to those questions I asked earlier. When you want to get hesitant on investing in your space, and I'm not saying investing just as like spend a lot of money on your space. Like, sometimes like I don't have it right now to hire somebody to help me clean the space, and that's fine. But like I said, like I'm personalizing it in other ways, using rooms in untraditional ways. I'm going to be purging through things. So that's also an investment of my time. So that's what I mean by invest, just in case, just wanted to clarify that. But when you begin to question, okay, should I spend time organizing the Q-tips in the bathroom? Should I spend the money on this? Does it really matter how I hang my clothes up in what order? If you begin to question it because it feels a little silly, or maybe somebody's kind of downplayed the importance of environment to you, hopefully you can think of these questions so that you can remember that it is important. It is valuable. People are important, but so are the other things like your space, your environment. So, again, think of the questions: what would having a life with less stress or more creativity or more rest or more clarity mean for you? What would you be able to do more of because of these things? My challenge for you today is to consider one way that you can invest in your environmental wellness, your personal space, whether that's your whole house, whether it's your room, whether it's a countertop. What is it that you can do? For me, I'll share mine. I'm going to declutter some hair products that are taking up way too much cabinet space. It stresses me out every time I open up the cabinet space, and I always end up digging, making it messier. So it would benefit me to have a decluttered cabinet. I wouldn't be stressed. I wouldn't be overwhelmed. I wouldn't be annoyed. All right. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget that if you would like to come on the show and discuss your chronic illness and the lifestyle changes and adjustments that you've made, I would love to have you come. Just check the show notes and it will lead you to being able to do that. All right. Until next episode. Bye.